Hey there, everybody. I thought we would revisit the X Pro 4 because, well, I mean, that should be the next camera. We've got the XH2, the XH2S, the XT5. And so I think the X Pro line, I mean, they might go upgrading the XT30 and, the XE4 and possibly, but I think the X Pro 4 is the next one to get the upgrade and update treatment. And from my last video, a few things have changed a little bit. Like now we have a 40 megapixel sensor and a stacked sensor in the mix. So there is that. So just to reiterate and to reassess where we're at, I thought, or where I'm at with an X Pro 4, I thought I'd throw this video out there. And the last one had some great discussions, a lot of input in terms of what people thought they wanted. And I think it's cool. There is no wrong answer. You want what you want, right? So, yeah. So for me, interestingly, the X Pro series from Fuji is my favorite series, even though right now at this moment I don't own one, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's where it is. I mean, there's been deal breakers for every one, maybe not so much for the X Pro 1, but the X Pro 2, the diopter kept getting, I mean, I sent that back within an hour of when I took it out of the box. The diopter kept resetting itself every time I put it in and out of my bag. The diopter wheel on the outside of the camera for me was a total deal breaker. And so, I mean, I could gaffer tape it, but yeah, it's ridiculous. So now I have heard reports that on some of the X Pro 2s, the wheel was stiffer than others, and maybe I got a really loose one, whatever, I don't know. I think putting a diopter wheel in a very vulnerable corner of a camera is a mistake no matter what. So, and the X Pro 3 for me, it turns out that rear screen really was a deal breaker for me. It didn't age well. After the initial 6 months to a year wore off, it just turned into a pain in the ass, and it was like, that this is stupid. So yeah, that's how it turned out for me. Some people love it, and that's great. I think they're few and far between. I think most people think it's stupid, but whatever. So yeah. So I mean, quite honestly, the screen on the X Pro 3 is on backwards. They put it on backwards is the problem. So yeah, so there's that. Now it's somewhat controversial, but I mean, for the people who love the X Pro 3, like I get it, okay. But for me, that screen just after. All right. So what do I want to see in it? I mean, I really want an X Pro 4. Okay, like if they nail it and they don't screw anything up, I'll pre-order it. No problem. I'm ready to go. So, but what do I see as an X Pro 4 now that we have the XH2S, XH2, XT5, etc.? So the first thing I'll say, and the easiest way to explain what I want in an X Pro 4 is to say start with an X Pro 3. Okay, I want an X Pro 3. I love the titanium body made in Japan. I would get a Dura Silver. I would love to have that in an X Pro 4. Yeah, everything about the X Pro 3 was fine with these changes, okay? First of all, I'm loving the 40 megapixel sensor. So, I don't really see them putting anything but the 40 megapixel sensor in the X Pro 4 because the X Pro series isn't really an action sports camera kind of a thing. And so that's where, or a video kind of a thing. And so that's really where the stacked sensor, action sports photography and video is where the stacked sensor kind of comes into play. So I don't see that happening. And so I'm perfectly happy with the 40 megapixel sensor. So 40 megapixel sensor, I'd like to see, obviously it's going to have the IBIS unit like the XT5 does. And then I'd like to see the ISO dial from the X100V, where it's pretty much the same thing as the X Pro 3, where you lift it up. The only difference is with the X Pro 3, you lift it up and it's spring-loaded. If you let it go, it falls back down. With the X100V, it clicks out, and then it becomes a constant adjustment, and then you unclick it, and it's back to wherever you set it. It locks it. So the X100V implementation of the ISO dial is the way to go, and I'm hopefully it'll have that. Rear screen, I'd like to see anything but the X Pro 3 screen. So if they put the X Pro 1 screen on there where it's fixed, that's fine. If they put the XT5 screen on there where it's a 3-way tilt, that's fine. If they put the X100V screen on there where it's flush mounted and it just kind of, I think it just pops out one way, that's fine. If they put the if they put the XT4 screen, fully articulated screen on there, I'm fine with that too. So for me, it's anything but the X Pro 3 screen, where it's hidden all the time and you have to pull it out to use it. So yeah, what's my preference of all of those? Well, from a completely practical standpoint, the XT5 screen would be fine. That would be my choice. I don't really see the fully articulated as working with the X Pro that well. I'd prefer to have, like the XT5 is a more photography oriented camera that still does good video. So, okay. I really would like that. I don't think this is going to happen, but I really would like to see the PC socket come back for flash sync. I mean, if you've got Pro, I've said this before, if you've got Pro in the name, you really should have all the Pro features. I'd like to see the PC socket come back. The X Pro 1 had it. So yeah, not a big deal if it doesn't. And this might be a little controversial, but I'd like to see the CF Express card in the X Pro 4 because I really like the CF Express cards, and they're actually cheaper than the fastest SD cards. No, there are no really inexpensive CF Express Pro cards, and that's why everybody thinks they're expensive. But you can get a 512 gigabyte Angel Bird for $180. That's 1,700 megabytes per second. You know, the fastest SD card is 300 megabytes per second, which is like a factor of 4 slower, and that's like $300. So yeah, so I'm perfectly happy with the CF Express Type B cards. And if they put 2 CF Express Type B cards in an X Pro 4, that'd be fine too. Probably the same setup as on the XH2, XH2S, you know, 1 CF Express Type B and 1 SD card would be fine. Now, if it had 2 UHS-2 SD cards like the XT5, is that a deal breaker for me? No, not at all. That's more of a preference than a deal breaker. The screen is a deal breaker. If they go back to the X Pro 3 screen, I'm out. What else is a deal breaker? If they screw up the diopter like the X Pro 2, I'm out. If it didn't have IBIS, I might reconsider. Probably not. I'll tell you what is a deal breaker. The dimensions do not need to get any bigger. If the X Pro 3 stays the same size or shrinks, I'm cool with that. But if they make it like a millimeter fatter to get the IBIS in there, leave the IBIS out. Okay, that camera does not need to get any bigger. All right. So yeah, so those are my thoughts, and that's what I would like to see in an X Pro 4. And, you know, I just thought this video would be relevant now that we've got some new options from Fuji, which is really cool. Like I said, I'm really loving that 40 megapixel sensor. That's turning out to be my favorite Fuji sensor so far. Way cool. And other than that, you know, I'd love to hear what you guys think, what you want in an X Pro 4. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the comments and all the support. And like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And we'll see you out there. Have a great one. Bye.